you can see, I have a lot of wall scrolls, and so I need a wall scroll box. So I built one. This is a container for my wall scrolls, and let me bring it over here. So this is the wall scroll box, and it's actually very straightforward. It's basically two boards. I have really one board cut into two pieces on those ends, and then some really thin plywood. So it's really just literally, screwing together plywood onto these two boards. It was that straightforward. And then the bottom is another piece of plywood, thicker this time. And in this case, I put some roller wheels, some casters on the bottom that are also lockable. I like that a lot. I'm a big believer in being able to roll things around and move things around for two reasons. One is because this is containing wall scrolls and I want to be able to pull it out, look through my collection, and then put it back in. It's a lot more convenient if it's on wheels. And secondly, everything should be on wheels. It makes life just so much easier if you want to reconfigure things, move things around in your room, that kind of thing. But really, this is 5 pieces of wood. The bottom and then the sides. Whoops. You could totally do this with one piece of plywood, a thick piece of plywood, do that on both sides, but honestly, these wall scrolls are really, really light. So I don't need much of anything in the way of solid construction in terms of, this doesn't need to support any weight. So that kind of made a lot of sense. This came together pretty smoothly. I made a couple of mistakes in terms of the casters. I did not really think about the depth of this piece of wood, and the only screws I had on hand were like long screws. So I ended up having to go back to my local construction store and buy little 1/4-inch screws for this. I'm in the US, so everything is inches and feet. I've tried using metric system on things, but because all the boards come in feet, then I end up with weird sizes. But anyway, also I didn't think at all about the fact that I own smaller wall scrolls, and just a couple of them. Actually, these are the only two. And there's really no good place to put those in here. So these would just go whoop, down in the middle of nowhere. So what I'd probably want to do to fix that is I will probably end up building another little sort of a pocket on one side. So basically, I'll put two boards here, one board here, one board there, and another little piece of wood on the front as a little pocket I can slide those wall scrolls into. So that's probably how I'll resolve that. Otherwise, I'd have to dig down in and find those. And this is much larger than I actually needed. As you probably saw from before, all my wall scrolls fit in a space about this big, as it turns out. So I kind of went overboard, and I don't plan on buying, dozens more wall scrolls. So this is much more than I need. It will allow me to get a few more if I want in the future, which I probably will do. And that's not a really bad thing. So instead of giving you like exact dimensions for this, I think if you want to build something like this, just look at what your needs are and measure based on that. I mean, there's no need for you to make something exactly this size for you. Just something that's about reasonable for what you're dealing with. Now there are also some potentials here for making this look a little bit nicer. I actually thought about pulling in. So essentially, I kind of like to have these corners notched off in sort of an octagonal shape. Then I have to move these inwards somewhat. It wouldn't be quite as structurally kind of ideal. So that's kind of not great. But oh well. In other words, this box shape is kind of plain. One giant box. But oh well. Such is life. I also stripped a few some wood off here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's some wood chopped. So you can see how some problems there. But I'm not complaining. This was a fun project to get my wall scrolls out of the way. It slides right back into that pocket back there in my room, and so it works out really well. And of course, I spray painted this all black. That's another interesting thing, actually. So I spray painted this. If I waited until I assembled this to spray paint it, how do I paint in there? Right? How do I get paint down in there? So I actually painted all of these pieces before I assembled it. Cut all the pieces out, make sure they all fit together, kind of assemble them Lego style, just next to each other, and then I spray painted them all, let that dry for a day, and then screwed it all together. So that's a quick tip if you're trying something like that, something like this, which has a kind of a deep pocket, a deep shelf or deep drawer. Paint it before you assemble it. So that's my wall scroll box. Hope you found that useful and interesting. And if you want to make something, again, just kind of wing it, in my opinion.